You ever had a neighbor who just couldn't mind their own business? Well, I did. And trust me, by the time this story's over, you'll understand why her house still sits there, in complete darkness. It all started with my porch lights. Yeah, you heard that right. Porch lights. Now, I'm the kind of person who keeps things tidy. My front yard is clean, my grass is trimmed, and my porch lights, two vintage lantern-style fixtures, stay on every night. They give my small brick house this warm, welcoming glow. But apparently, that glow was the most offensive thing in the world to my neighbor Karen. Karen moved into the house next door about 6 months ago. She was one of those people who had a complaint ready before she even unpacked her boxes. The kind who'd frown if you breathed too loud. She was in her mid-40s, with a permanent scowl carved into her face, like she'd been practicing it for years. At first, she complained about small things, our garbage cans being too close to the property line, the sound of my wind chimes, and even the color of my mailbox. But the real war started the night she came pounding on my door because of those porch lights. It was around 9:30 p.m. I was watching TV when I heard the loud, angry bam 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 on my door. I opened it, and there she was, bathrobe, slippers, and a storm cloud on her face. "Do you have any idea how bright those lights are?" she barked, shielding her eyes dramatically. "They're shining right into my bedroom window. I can't sleep." I blinked, caught off guard. Karen, your house is literally 40 feet away, and your blinds are closed. How are they shining into your room?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she huffed, "You need to turn them off at night. It's inconsiderate." I tried to stay polite. "These are safety lights. I keep them on because there have been break-ins down the street. Maybe you should." "I don't care about break-ins," she interrupted, her voice rising. "Turn them off." Then she spun around and stomped back to her house, muttering something about selfish neighbors. I figured it was just one bad night, but boy was I wrong. The next evening, I noticed something weird. My porch lights weren't on. I checked the switch inside, nothing wrong there. Then I stepped outside and saw that both bulbs were shattered. Someone had thrown rocks. I didn't need a detective to figure out who. I replaced the bulbs the next morning, this time installing shatterproof glass covers. But that night, I caught her red-handed. Around 10 p.m., I heard a faint clink outside. I peered through the blinds and saw Karen crouched near my porch, arm cocked back, ready to toss another rock. I flung open the door. "Karen, what are you doing?" She jumped, dropping the rock like a guilty kid. Oh, I was just checking on something. I thought I saw a cat." "Really?" I said, pointing at the rock. With that, she turned red and stammered, "You're harassing me. I'm calling the HOA about your lights." And she actually did. 2 days later, I got a letter from the Homeowners Association saying my excessive outdoor lighting had been reported and that I needed to make adjustments. I called them immediately, explained the situation, even sent photos showing that the lights weren't intrusive. They dropped the complaint, but that only made Karen angrier. The real trouble started when I noticed my security camera wires were cut. Now that crossed the line. So, I decided if Karen wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. I installed new wireless cameras, one she couldn't find, and connected them to a cloud backup. I also set up motion sensors that would send alerts straight to my phone. For a few nights, nothing happened. Then one Thursday, at 1:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I opened the feed, and there she was. Karen, creeping across my front yard with a pair of gardening shears. I watched in disbelief as she went up to my porch light, stretched on her toes, and started snipping the wires. I quietly opened my front door and snapped a photo of her mid-act. The flash startled her so badly, she almost fell backward off the step. "What are you doing on my property?" I shouted, her face twisted in anger. "Your lights. They're illegal. You're blinding me. I can't." "Get off my property before I call the police," I said, holding up my phone. And yes, I have everything recorded. Her eyes widened, and she ran off, shouting something incoherent about light pollution and violations. I figured that'd be the end of it once she realized she could get in real trouble. But no, Karen wasn't done. 2 nights later, The power went out. Not just mine, hers too. At first, I thought it was a neighborhood outage, but when I looked across the street, every other house had lights on. I stepped outside and saw Karen in her driveway, waving her flashlight and screaming into her phone. Apparently, she'd been messing around with the shared electrical box behind our houses, trying to cut power to my lights again, and managed to knock out her own power line. The irony was almost poetic. But here's where things get really strange. That same night, I noticed something odd in her yard. Her motion light, the one she used to glare at me for having mine, started flickering wildly. Then it went out completely. I didn't think much of it until the next evening, when I saw her front window glowing, not from light, but from candles. Her electricity hadn't come back on. A couple of days passed, and she still hadn't fixed it. Every night, her house sat there in eerie darkness, while mine shone bright as ever. I almost felt bad, almost. But then weird things started happening. I'd hear strange noises at night, low humming sounds coming from her property. Once, I saw movement in her yard, but when I looked again, there was no one there. Then one morning, I saw her standing in her doorway, looking straight at me. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken, like she hadn't slept in days. "You need to turn off your lights," she said softly. "They're attracting things." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She didn't answer, just turned around and shut her door. That night, around 3 a.m., my motion sensor went off again. But this time, it wasn't Karen. When I checked the camera feed, I saw something tall and shadowy standing in her yard, between our houses, its shape barely visible in the glow of my porch lights. It wasn't a person. Too thin, too tall, and it moved wrong. I blinked, and it was gone. I thought maybe I was just tired, imagining things. But when I checked the footage the next morning, the camera had glitched. The whole recording was static. And when I stepped outside, I noticed something else. Karen's front door was wide open. Her candles were still burning inside, untouched. But she was gone. When I saw her front door hanging open like that, my stomach dropped. Karen might have been the worst neighbor on the planet, but seeing her house like that, dark, silent, empty, sent a chill crawling down my spine. I called out her name once, half expecting her to come stomping out and yell at me for being on her porch again. But there was nothing. Just that strange humming sound I'd been hearing at night, faint but steady, like a low electrical buzz. I stepped closer and peered inside. The candles she'd been using for light had burned low, wax dripping down onto her wooden floor. Her phone sat on the counter, plugged into a dead outlet. Everything looked frozen. And then I saw them. Handprints, dark, smudged marks on the inside of the doorframe. Long, thin prints, as if someone had pressed their palms there trying to hold themselves back, or trying not to be pulled out. I stepped back fast and called the police. When the officers arrived, I told them everything, about the lights, the arguments, the night I caught her cutting my wires, the outage, and now this. They went through her house, room by room, but found nothing. No forced entry, no sign of struggle, no Karen. One of the cops, an older guy named Daniels, came back out shaking his head. "She's not here," he said. "Doors locked from the inside, windows closed. Place feels weird, doesn't it?" Yeah, weird was an understatement. They filed a missing person report, and for the next few days, the street buzzed with rumors. Some said she ran away to avoid charges. Others whispered about a nervous breakdown. But I couldn't shake the image of that thing I'd seen in her yard, the tall shadow moving like smoke under my porch light. I tried telling myself it was just my imagination, stress, lack of sleep. But then things started happening to me. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to my porch lights flickering. Not the normal kind of flicker. These were rhythmic, almost deliberate, like something was trying to get my attention. Then the motion sensor tripped. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera feed, and froze. There was movement again. But this time, it wasn't in Karen's yard. It was right under my porch. The footage was dark, but I could make out a shape, a long, spindly figure crouching low, its limbs too thin, its head tilted at an impossible angle. It moved toward the camera, one step at a time, until its face, or what looked like a face, filled the frame. And then static. My lights went out. The entire house plunged into blackness. I stumbled to the breaker box, flipping switches like a maniac, but nothing worked. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echo in the silence. Then, faintly, from outside, I heard whispering. At first, I thought it was the wind. But no, these were voices. 2 of them. One sounded like Karen. I ran to the window, trying to see through the dark. The street light at the corner was still on, but everything around my property looked darker than usual, like a thick fog had settled just on my side of the street. I could make out figures moving near the fence. Slow. Wrong. And then I realized something terrifying. The only thing still glowing faintly was Karen's house. Not with electricity, though. With a dull, reddish pulse, like something alive was breathing inside those walls. I backed away from the window and grabbed my phone again. No signal. The screen glitched, flickered, then showed something impossible. A live camera feed of Karen's living room. Only, I hadn't opened that feed. I didn't even have a camera there. The image showed the same candles from before, still burning low, and in the corner, a figure standing completely still, its face half-shadowed, eyes reflecting the faint light. It was Karen, or what looked like her. Her mouth moved, but there was no sound. Then, slowly, her head turned toward me, like she could see me watching her through the screen, and the feed cut out. The next morning, I went straight to the police again. Officer Daniels came back, tired but polite, and I showed him the footage from my cloud backup. Only it wasn't there. Every video from that night was corrupted. Black static, faint buzzing, sometimes a few frames of my porch, but never the thing I saw. Daniels sighed. Look, I don't know what's going on here. The utility company says your power box was tampered with again. Probably kids or someone messing around. But that neighbor, still no sign. It's like she vanished off the map. Vanished was right. No one ever saw her again. Weeks passed. Her house sat empty, dark, and silent. The bank eventually repossessed it, but no one would buy it. Every time a real estate agent went to show the place, the power would go out the moment they stepped inside. A few even said they heard humming, same low, electrical hum I'd heard that first night. Now here's the thing. My porch lights? They never went out again. Not once. I replaced the wiring, checked every circuit, and even put in a backup generator. No flickers, no outages. But I swear, some nights, when I stand outside and look toward Karen's old house, I can still see faint shadows moving behind those blacked-out windows. Sometimes, if it's really quiet, I'll hear her voice, soft and angry, drifting through the dark. You should have turned off the lights. And the hum starts again. That low, vibrating sound, like power running through wires that shouldn't even exist anymore. Last week, a new family moved into Karen's old house. A young couple with a baby. Nice people. Friendly. I warned them about the wiring problems, told them to be careful with the circuits. That first night, they waved at me from their porch. Their house looked warm and alive again, light pouring from every window. But by midnight, all the lights in their home went out, every single one, while mine stayed glowing bright as ever. And just before I went inside, I saw something standing behind their fence. Tall, thin, still, exactly where Karen used to stand when she came to yell about my porch lights. So yeah, she tried to knock down my porch lights. Now her house, and everyone who lives in it, will always be in the dark.